Thank you for joining me again on another Let's Talk with the Doc. I'm excited to be here tonight to talk with my friend who's joining me from down to the south corners of the country. I am excited to have with me Bishop Dr. Wantworth Heron, and I can't wait to talk to him. So hang in there, my friends, and as I come back, I will be talking to my brother, my friend, my fellow laborer, and good long time buddy. All right, so hang in there. When I come back, we will talk. ORB Ministry presents Let's Talk with the Doc. Grace Without Borders podcast. A thought for you. Ask Pastor. And a whole lot more. You never know what's next or who will join the conversation. All right, my friends, I have with me Bishop Wentworth Heron. Bishop Wentworth Heron, my friend. It is good to see you, my brother. Welcome to Let's Talk with the Doc. Nice to see you.
Nice seeing you as well, sir. Nice being here to be a part of your program.
It's been a while, and I know as I was saying to you before we came on, man, seemed like one of the hardest man to get. But thank God we kind of spread the net and finally grab you in. And I hope that this will be an interesting, memorable, unforgettable time. What has life been doing with you?
Well, as you have seen that over the years, life has done a bit on my head. I don't have any hair left. And what is left is white, and I choose to keep some on the face.
It is interesting. It is interesting that that life does so much on the head, but not on the face itself. Because maybe you can tell me what's the knock? What's the story behind the hair gone off the head, but it grows on the sideburns on the chin, and it gets white and stays there.
I think part of it is the genetic makeup that I carry, I bear. My mom, from I know, remember her as a young boy, her head was white. My uncle used to call her Bustamante.
But
So that
I remember Bustamante, right?
yes, yeah.
Yeah.
And then I've seen most of my brothers with the same makeup as well, and things on both mom and father's side. So I think I want to attribute it to that, and plus the hard work.
Well, well, no, no, no. Well, I'm gonna stick with the genetic makeup. Okay, I'm gonna stick with the genetic
No,
makeup.
you,
I'm
you've
not
got
I'm not go, I'm not gonna go to
you've,
the hard work thing because that
you've
that's
got to
im-
be
that,
you've got to be kind with an old man, man.
well that is implying something that the rest of us who still have here in our head maybe not working hard. So that's why
No,
I'm not gonna go to the hard work
no,
thing. I'm
I
gonna
would
leave
want
that.
to think that there are some of my friends who really should be where I am, but they know that some additives will do some things, some kind of a magic to their hair, and I really don't want to get into that realm of life. So I continue to age gracefully.
Age gracefully. I like that. I want to age gracefully too. I am
Yeah.
talking to my friend Bishop Wentworth Heron. I know this man a long, long time ago. Hopefully, I can remember some of the things and the journey as we come along. But in my meeting with my guests and talking about their stories, I like to trace back. Into the beginning of days, because and as preachers, most people don't really know us. They
Uh-huh.
don't really pass it. Most people don't know us. They see us on the platform, they see us in conferences and in classrooms, etc. And some people don't even associate us with growing up as a child and struggle and have all the kind of ups and down. So memorialize it, is that the term that I want to use,
Y-
and put us on a pedestal, so
Yes.
they don't look at us as human. For some people, that's like, oh, my pastor, and just like this wonderful man of God, and that's all they can associate with you. And
Right.
so I like to go back and say, tell us what it's like. And I've always been finding fascinating stories of people's early days. So what was it like when you just find out you were Wantworth? Your parents, siblings, how many brothers, sisters, where did you fall? What was the family dynamic? How did things go when Wentworth came along?
Well, the reality for me that I did not know Wantworth until probably a couple of years into my life. I really grew up knowing Pee. That was my name. My name of choice. That's my pet name around the household, around the community. By the time I changed my primary school, that kind of got a bit Englified, if I can use that term, where
Okay, all right,
the new folks
English.
didn't want to call me Peepee, so I became Pippi through high school. But I am that was the name I grew up with, and I tell people what it is, because if we are here now and my siblings they come along,
That's what they're gonna
they're
say.
gonna say brother Peepee. So
Mm.
rather than being surprised, I like to put that out there. So of course I grew up in my friend would call it the rural city of Hayes in Clarendon. Um, I am the seventh of eight children for my mother. She had seven boys and a girl. She girl is
Wow.
number four in the lot. So we kind of made her tough as a result of that. And then all of us had to be somewhat domesticated because somebody had to help her. My father died when I was about 4.5 years old. So I do not remember a whole lot about him except for two things: patty and ice cream on a Friday evening. That imagery of him riding into the yard with patty and ice cream never ever left me.
Wow,
Um,
you're a little bit better than me because my father died when I was only three and a half, and I can only remember seeing him behind the shop counter. That's all I can remember,
oh
seeing
my
him behind
gosh.
the shop counter once in my mind, nothing
Yeah.
else. That's as much as I
Wow,
can recall,
wow,
and
wow,
only a shadow of the man I can remember seeing.
wow,
Anyway,
wow.
not breaking your story, but yeah, we have a little bit of things in common. But you're a
But
little bit better off than I am.
But these are great testimonies as to God as our Father, because I really
Right.
think the Lord came along and picked us up and helped us along the way. So yeah, that's it. I started at the Hayes Primary School. In fact, well, no, I started at somebody's backyard in basic school and went to a church for their basic school program, and then went on to primary school at Hayes. Did the first year of common entrance there, and I was not successful. By this time, a cousin of mine who used to teach there, she had moved on to another primary school some 6, 7 miles away in Larnelltown. And
Mm.
she invited my mother to try and send us to that location. So I passed common entrance from that location and went on to the great Glenmuir High School in Maypen.
Okay, all right. So you've been progressing. Um, a lot of us are familiar with the backyard, private school or kindergarten
Yes,
or what they used to call it. There's some good woman in the community kind of
yes.
start up something, and I remember some of those things. What were your parents? Well, you didn't. Your father died early, so what was it like? Were your mother Christian? Did you come up in a Christian environment, or did you branch out to find it? How did that come along?
We grew up as Anglicans. We
Okay.
grew up we grew up Anglicans. I got confirmed at age 10. I about 3, 4 months after I made age 10. Still looking at myself in that black pants, white shirt, and little black tie with a elastic band around it. I was
I remember
my
that too.
my rector at the time was Reverend Neville D'Souza, who himself became the Lord Bishop for Jamaica. The bishop who confirmed it was Bishop J.C. Swaby. J.C. Swaby was then the Lord Bishop of Jamaica. I think was an Englishman, but he confirmed me. I remember vividly for his homily at the confirmation service. He says, "Oh, people are going to ask you, when were you baptized?" Just telling you were baptized when you were a baby.
Mm.
Never forget that. And the words that were said over me at confirmation: "Confirm, O Lord, this thy child with thine heavenly grace."
Oh, so you're coming from the Anglican foundation. That's where you started off. All right.
Yes.
So tell me about the school years. And you say you what was it like among your siblings? You've been the eighth. You said the seven of the eight, seventh of eight.
Seventh of the eighth,
So
yes.
then you got only one person behind you. What was it like with your bigger brothers? A lot of brothers and what one? How many sisters you have?
One sister.
One sister. And where did she fall?
She is number four.
She's number four. So your bigger brothers and your sister. What was the dynamic among them? What kind of temperament did Wantworth have growing up? Was he an aggressive boy? Was he a layback boy? Was he fighting the territory? What was Wentworth like?
No, well, it was all survival in those days. It was all survival. You had to be cunning, be crafty,
Uh
know
huh.
what you want in life and work towards it. My brothers we were enterprising people,
Okay.
not in terms of entrepreneurship, but certainly to run the streets, know the streets. We knew our community well. We were all involved with sport at some level, and they were all. I grew up in an environment where everybody tended towards work, the 9 to 5 situation. So, in as far as my formation as it relates to work, that was something which was a part of our being. Because the reality is, we saw our mom growing up as a seamstress, a dressmaker. There's no room for you to go out there and idle. She needed support. The reality is, as a seamstress, she was the old pedal machine.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When my sister got to the point where she could buy her an electric machine, sewing was already done with her.
Wow.
That's how hard she worked.
Wow.
And so we knew that we had to find a way to get in the marketplace. And God was good to all of us. So to all of us, we made it that way.
I remember those pedal machines, boy. That was the in thing back then. The singer pedal machine.
Singer,
That blackhead thing, man.
singer machine, sir. And we as boys, we had to turn the streamers and pick out thread out of the
Because
hem and
oh
all of that.
yeah,
Yeah,
all the bass thread and all that stuff, right?
that is correct.
And
So
maybe you have to do a little bit of hemming. Learn to do a little bit of hemming too with
no,
the ning.
we didn't do the hemming because my mom and her sister, my aunt, the both of them were dressmakers. So they also took in some apprentices.
Okay,
Some
okay, all
young
right,
ladies were learning the trade, so they would do most of that.
okay.
Anything we're going to hem is what we tore up on our clothes, which we didn't want them to know. So we had to go do it in some corner so that they wouldn't know.
I get that one too. I get that one. I get that one too. Oh, that is interesting. That is interesting. All right, all right. So tell me as you grow up now in school. Tell me a bit about your progression in school because when I look at your achievement, tell me about your progression. What was at what point did Wentworth say? What I'm aspiring for. At what point did you say this is what I want to become when I grow up?
Well, through primary school, that was never a part of my thinking. Primary school, you just want to make it to high school. When I got to high school, there was one thing which really came to me forcefully, which I would love to be, was to be a veterinary surgeon. I
Mm.
really needed to do vet.
Oh,
Yeah,
you want to be a veterinary surgeon?
yes, that I loved working, dealing with animals from a young boy. We didn't have much, but I just had a likeness for animals. Certainly not cats and dogs, but more so the cattle and so forth. Really had aspirations to be a vet. I got to the
Before
School of
before
Agriculture.
before before you get to the agriculture, tell me the driving force behind you wanting to be a veterinarian surgeon. Tell me why you want to be a surgeon and not just a vet.
Well, it's the whole habit of it. When I say veterinary surgeon, it has to do with everything because in the
Okay.
in that division, you pretty much do pretty much everything. So yes.
And what age was that when you had compassion for animals that you want to take care of them?
For me, it is, I wouldn't say to take, it is not the compassion like we know with our domesticated animals here, but more so working with cows and goats and so forth and pigs. As I saw it back in the day, in my day, there was a gentleman in our area who had a little herd, nice little herd of dairy cattle. So you know that he had to call in the vet every now and again. That intrigued me. And then I got involved with some measures, see some things happening in other areas of life, and that kind of increased my interest in vet medicine.
That is very interesting. That is very interesting. You see, that's why programs like this is good. And I'm wondering how many people know that Wantworth wanted to be a veterinarian surgeon at his young age. My friends, I'm talking to Bishop Doctor Wantworth Heron, my friend, and we're just beginning. So if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube or even on Twitter, it's a good time to hit your share button and invite somebody because you never know what the story is going to be like. All right, so so tell me about your progression as you moved on to school. Okay, so that's what my first love, what I would like to be. What
Hmm.
happened and what happened to that? How did that not happen?
All right. Before I even
Or your
get
mind
there,
just changed as you grew up? It just
before I get there, Doc, let me say, by the time I got to fourth form, I got so involved with playing soccer that after a while, really, even that aspect of my life kind of went blank. I just wanted to play soccer. The reality of life. And I got picked on the Dakar Cup squad for my school. Did very well, I believe.
oh wow.
Given where our school was coming from, we were a school which was noted. They used to give us a name because of our, I can't use the word exploits because it was not exploits. We were beaten upon by other schools. That year we saw a turnaround to the extent when we went to Veer Technical, which was a powerhouse in the day. The principal looked at us and said, "You boys just need some good nutrition and a good coach." That's what he said to us. Because we held them on their grounds to 2-0. They only gave us 2-0, which was a first for us as a school.
Oh, so you weren't beaten that badly.
No, 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 no. In fact, that was our penultimate game. The final game should have been against Clarendon College, which was an emerging powerhouse at the time with Stylo and all of those guys. And the very technical principal was hoping that we would have gone to Clarendon College and performed the same way we performed at Vere.
Okay, okay,
In
okay.
that way, that would have enhanced their chance of making it to the next round. But lo and behold, we were pulled from the competition because the extent to which we were not supported is best described by this reality. For the first year, my school bought us soccer boots
Wow.
on the premise that we would have repaid 50% of the cost of the boots. And we got to that penultimate game with most of us still not paying the money. And the principal pulled us from the competition, yanked us.
Oh, so that's the reason why you were pulled from the competition because you didn't pay for your boots?
We didn't pay for the boots. We
Oh
used
my
to we used
goodness.
to eat bun and cheese, drink orange juice, jump on a minibus, and travel to is it Claremont to play Ferncourt High School. That was the nature of our nutrition playing soccer back in the days.
Wow. 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 So then the veterinarian thing kind of slip out of the mind because you so indulged in soccer and you find a new love and you get distracted from that. And so what happened? What happened? Did your team get better with the soccer after a
Mm-mm.
while or it just died?
Man, God was good to me. I managed to have done 8 O-level subjects. I got 6 of the 8.
Wow.
That qualified me to go back to do sixth form.
Mm.
Plus, I had done 2 subjects privately, so I would have had 8 subjects in total.
Wow.
That qualified me to go back to do I wouldn't say to do A level, but to go back for 2 more years to play soccer. But
Oh,
I must be honest with you, there were about 6 of us at high school. We were known as the Fabulous Six. That was a local school gang.
excuse me.
So as a result of that, the principal decided not to take us back. I did not hear the word "I am not taking you back" because on my way to school, I saw one of my friends who was a part of the group. And he told me that he went to see the principal, and the principal told him no. So I didn't go. I just collected my result sheet and go home.
Just stay away from it.
So
Wow.
So as
Wow.
a result, I stayed home for 1 year because I had not signed up for youth service. I didn't have nothing to do, so I stayed home for 1 year. But that 1 year became the pivotal year in my spiritual journey.
So hold a second. You didn't sign up for school,
No,
and then as a result of that, you stayed home for 1 year,
yes.
and tell me about the spiritual aspect of that. How did that get magnified, or how did that benefit you becoming in your spiritual growth or its development?
During that 1 year, well, let me put it this way. At high school, I did Bible knowledge as a subject at the Cambridge
Mm,
level, GCO level. And the books we studied for O level was the book of Acts and the book of Mark. The church got a prophecy in Hayes, which is about probably just over half a mile from my house. They were studying the book of Acts for national quiz in the church that
mm,
year.
mm-hmm.
And so I got involved with sitting around the church and answering questions. And so I was drafted to be a part of the quiz team.
Christy, yeah.
Yeah. Even without being a member of the church, by virtue of my age, I was qualified as a member of the VLB.
Okay.
So I went to national convention, not a Christian, and went back home, didn't make any decision or anything of that nature. By May, I was going to Black River on a trip. The football team from Hayes was going to Black River to play soccer for Labor Day. And we had an accident just outside of Santa Cruz. But before we had the accident, I heard 3 times vividly, "You're going to die today and you're not saved."
Wow.
And so at the accident, having gone through the accident, coming out of the accident, I made a decision in my mind that I was going back home and I was going to commit my life to Christ.
What
Never,
age? What age was that?
that would be at about age 18.
18.
Yes.
And you
Suffice
and
it
you,
to say, I went back home and that decision, I didn't live it out at all for the first 2 weeks after I went back home.
well, I mean, 2 weeks. The young man still got to contemplate that decision that he made. 2 weeks is not forever.
No.
In order to make a such
Address.
drastic change. Exactly, a drastic change in your life. And no, and from a Jamaican Christian perspective,
Mm-hmm.
we knew back then that once you make the decision,
Mm-hmm.
it your life is changed. It's not like here you could not knocking stuff, but like here some people that make decisions and nothing changed. They just kind of go
Mm-hmm.
on with their own thing. But back
Yes.
then in Jamaica, back then
Mm-hmm.
when you made that decision, you knew your world changed. So
Yes.
I can imagine the 2 weeks of contemplating and say, boy, I gotta process this change that I'm walking into. I could imagine that.
Yeah. That plus, I by that time too, I had gotten involved with the bigger guys in the community. We used to have the National Water Commission plant was right dead smack in the center of town. And we would meet at that place and every night pretty much. We used to call it Parliament.
Parliament.
We had debate, but it was no meaningful debate. We were just there chatting people's life story. And,
Uh,
and so you got involved with Parliament. But even in Parliament, though, I was always known as the most religious. I was seen more like the chaplain of Parliament. But you
So
still
you
got
so
involved.
so so you were kind of the apologist for the Christian faith, even though you were not also.
No, I was not doing anything for the Christian faith. They just knew that I am more the quiet one, and I go to church,
Oh,
and church
oh,
was not too far from there. No, man,
oh,
I
okay,
no,
okay,
sir.
okay, 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 okay. So you
So I
weren't a
was not.
defender of the faith. It's
No,
just
I
an
was not.
assumption that.
No, no, no,
Okay,
sir. No, sir.
okay,
No, sir.
okay.
We were still religious people. When I say Parliament and gang in those days, we were still we were not Christians, but there was a level of interest and fear for Almighty God. So some things you just would not do.
Yeah, I see my wife giving you a shout out and calling you teacher over here, and then giving you all the respect that you could have been anything you wanted to be because you're such a studious man. So she has a lot of kudos
You know,
to
you
you.
have
But
you have one of the finest wives there is on the earth.
Well, thank you for that, and I appreciate it. And by the way, just FYI, this Friday coming, it's gonna be 44 years.
Well, 44 years.
Yeah,
You're ahead of us. We just did 41 on Monday.
and keep on coming, man. So you're in February too.
Yes, sir.
Oh, I'm on the 18th, so it's gonna be 44 years. So God
Yes.
bless her. She's a good wife, and we've
Well,
been together and
congratulations.
still enjoying it.
She
All
had
right.
to be a good wife to put up with you, really.
And I could buy that. I could buy that. I would not detest or protest that. I'm gonna I'm gonna leave it right there. I won't argue that. All right. So you come through the process now. You get into high school. Where did you, what happened after after that year off time, getting back into school, uh Christian conviction. Now what?
During that 1 year, one of the guys I went to school with, a high school with, he had gone on to the Jamaica School of Agriculture. I never ever knew where he was going because at the time we were always intent on going back to high school to play soccer. But anyway, we run into each other and he told me. And so, of course, this now brought me right back to where I was before football intervened.
Yeah,
And
with the
so
animal thing, right?
that's right. So I signed up for School of Agriculture. So I gave my heart to the Lord in June, and by September, I was now gone to the School of Agriculture at Twickenham Park in St. Catherine.
Wow.
Yeah.
And see that in 1978 you were in the agriculture thing. And what was that experience like? What it entails, and what were the requirements, and what were the activities? What was it like in terms of the experience going through the School of Agriculture?
Well, first and foremost, is the School of Agriculture was a unique place. The course offered there was a general agricultural course, which included subjects like economics, accounting, mechanics, carpentry, and so forth. Because in essence, you're being prepared to run a farm. So all
Mm.
aspect is a general agriculture. So we had to do agronomy, which is to do with the plants, as well as we had to do the animal husbandry, livestock. So we had to do every aspect of it. That included milking cows, cleaning the pig pen, picking up eggs, feeding the chickens, everything. The rabbits, what have you, we had to go cut grass for them and put their pellets out. Everything was included. Suffice it to say, when you're on piggery duty, it's not the most glorious of
Oh, tell me.
activity, but there was a beauty to being on the piggery, which I personally liked. Um, I, I, I recognized for the first time in my life, and notwithstanding what we say about the pig, they would never eat where they are passing their refuse.
Come to think of it, come to think of it, you're right with that, because I've been around a lot of people who rears pigs. My uncle did that, and you're right. You are so right. That is so true. They always have this corner over there where they're so disciplined. They go over in that corner.
That is correct.
You're right. They'll never turn around and poop in their tray where they're eating their food.
If you
That
put your
that
food, if you put their food there, you know you're going to go back and see it.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was the discovery on that? What's the instinct of the animal? What is there a discovery or research, or what pigs are, why they are different?
Bishop, I cannot tell you. I cannot tell you. In fact, the gentleman who brought this to my attention was not a lecturer, was a farmhand. And those men were, to me, some of the most educated men there is in the world. The gentleman on the piggery and that one by the livestock here, the dairy area.
Mm.
Very knowledgeable. He couldn't say why, but he was the one who brought that to our attention. We had to watch. He gave us a week to watch, to observe, and come back and tell him something that we see. And that was one thing we discovered.
That is so interesting, because now that you say it, I know it to be true, and by nature, right? By nature
Hmm.
or character of pigs, one might expect that the pigs would have been the worst in terms of, wallowing in the mud and all of that
Yes.
stuff. There's that's interesting. That's
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
interesting. That's very interesting. All right. So after.
If you don't mind, there's one other thing I observed, and I personally picked up while at JSA.
Go
And
ahead.
this is never ever you underestimate people based on where they are in life.
Mm-hmm.
The guy who operated the piggery, he was better at telling us when a pig would furrow than the lecturer could. The
What?
lecturer would make his determination using whatever calculation, number of days, and blah blah blah, all kind of the calculations. But that little man, he just simply look at the breast of the pig, and
Mm.
can tell you it's going to happen tonight. And
Wow.
you better go sleep early because you're going to be called that night to go down to the pig pen because you've got to be there. If not, they were going to roll over those piglets. But he
Wow.
was extraordinary. At the dairy, on the dairy, Bishop Beckford, there's a gentleman, old T, I can remember him to this very day. He will tell you when these two cows come to the pig to the milking station, you put them in in the stanchion first
Mm-hmm.
because they are going to let every ounce of milk down if you don't put them into to be milked first. He
Wow.
knew his animals, he knew them intricately, and he
Wow.
never gets a kick from a cow. He handles
Wow.
that cow like I've never seen anybody before. In fact, he used to laugh at certain lecturers because he said, "Oh, them just go school, let me know if you do this thing."
That's exactly what I was going to say. The theoretical aspect of things versus the hands-on,
Hmm.
it's a whole different story. Yeah, because while some people are studying books, some people are
Hmm.
studying animals.
That
So
is
so
correct.
yeah, so that's the difference. Wow, my grandfather was really good at that. You could say that cow may be gonna have calf tonight because
Hmm.
they did all the examination and they can watch and say, "Yeah, I don't know what the clues were, but you're right. You're so right. You're so right. I had no clue, man. So you have some knocks on animals, and you have some knocks on the field, and you have
Hmm.
some knocks all over the place, and the knocks in the accounting and all of the business aspect of it from the Ministry of Agriculture. So now you've gotten out or gotten through the Ministry of Agriculture. What was Wentworth's next step as he said, okay, I've gone through this. What do I do next?
God has been exceptionally good to me. Having left JSA, I worked 1 year with the Ministry of Agriculture as an extension officer up in the hills of Clarendon, Woodall, Chapelton area. So I got to know a little bit about coffee and all of that good stuff. Um, and while I was doing that, um, a relative of mine was working with the Bank of Nova Scotia, and she got me to apply, and I got the job at Bank of Nova Scotia, working in the loans department, and that kind of set off another trajectory in my life where I got
Hmm.
involved with banking at Scotiabank, moving all the way through to their management program. And I've closed off my banking career at the Workers' Bank in management.
Yeah, I saw that. That was my number 2 point because I noticed that those were a little bit earlier in your years.
Hmm.
The ministry aspect come on, although it falls latter part in what I have here, but I figure more or less it would have been early. So you have been in that, and then you were at the Scotia Bank, and then you were credit officer. At
Hmm.
that point, tell me the experience about being a credit officer and how biased and selfish and mean you could get, and picky scrutiny, and tell me how that unfolds behind the scene.
All right, let's see if I can help you set the framework for even the interface with church. I started with the bank in 1980. We got married in 1981. Um, and by 82, I was then called into pastoral work.
Mm.
I started as an assistant loans officer at 3 Mile, it's a Jamaican 3 miles, three
Three
miles,
miles, we know 3 miles. I know three
Agley
miles
Park
quite
Road,
well. Yeah, oh yeah.
at corner of Agley Park and Agley Park and Olympic. Is it Olympic Way? Yeah, comes out all the way out there. Yeah, so that's where where the bank was, and I did well, one year there, 1 year as a trainee, and then went on to the King Street branch as an assistant officer. Yeah, I did not conventional, but what do you call it? Consumer credit initially.
Right.
Consumer credit had to do with lending for cars and furniture, house repair, those kind of a personal stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The bank has strict guidelines in terms of collateral, so you just have to follow the guidelines as best as you possibly can. The hardest part is going to be verification of people's information. A
Right.
man tell you he lives in those days when you're working at Agley Park, you know what you've got to deal with. There are areas you really can't go in to go do a verification.
Right.
You have to
Right.
find other method. We had, for me personally, there was a minister within the church who had a good relationship at the bank. So we relied heavily on him as well for some things. And
So he,
we,
he was kind of liaison between borrowers and the
yeah,
bank. You say,
he knew a few things, not so much the people, but the area and so forth. So he kind of help us with information and
okay, okay,
so on. But of course, a lot of the verification will be done through people's employers at the human resource department. They understand our reality because some of them were also clients of the bank, and we
hmm
could get information from them to be verified, at least addresses. They would need to bring a pay stub and so on, because that is now going to determine their ability to pay. If they're paying rent, do we have receipt? That kind of a stuff. But there are times, Doc, when there are persons who come to you and they meet all the qualification, but there is this sixth sense. We call it the gut feelings. You're
hmm
just not comfortable with somebody. And
that's where that
sometimes,
that's where that sixth sense. That's where that sixth sense come in, right?
yes, sir,
As you
you're just
say,
not comfortable with lending the bank's money to that individual. And that's where you've got to be very, very creative in the way you sometimes you just refer them to somebody above you to make that decision. But there are other times it becomes dicey, really becomes dicey. I worked in one location where I was the junior officer, and the senior officer did an application for a gentleman. But he didn't like the application. I didn't like the application. And the guy was coming and he was giving the guy, you know exactly how to turn the loan down. And there's this particular day that he was not at work, and the man showed up. And the man came in and asked, and I said, "No, the boss is not here." And the man said to me, "Sir, I used two toothbrushes this morning, you know."
oh Lord have mercy.
Do you understand what I meant by that?
Oh, him no one curse right now. Him out clean.
What is going to come out of his mouth is going to be dependent on what I say to him. So he was prepared to go right. He was prepared to go left.
Oh wow. Okay, okay,
No,
okay.
no, I could not help him because there's no approval on the application. I'm not authorized to do an approval. So of course he went way left field, you know.
Oh wow.
So the bank hall now became a colorful place.
I imagine that. I imagine that. And
So
boy, you're talking about Jamaica too, right?
man, so management had to come out of their office and became a part of the process, and they did their little thing, and we resolved it.
So did he get the loan?
We had no option but to give the loan.
Oh Lord of mercy.
Because technically speaking, the collateral is there, the ability based on the paperwork he provides to you. And you know, sometimes the paperwork, you just have to take their word for it. Not everything
Mm,
is going to be genuine. You just have a sense that, yard, you know what yard is. People make up things and bring to you. So, but man is self employed, he can get anybody to give you some figures. So that kind
yep,
of a
yep,
thing.
yep, yep, yep.
Yeah.
I understand. I understand. That was a challenging. That's a challenging position to be in because some people just kind of think that you might be the cause of their downfall. You
That
might
is
be the
correct.
reason why they don't get you, and sometimes they don't even understand that things go through a system and a process,
Yes,
and
yes.
you're just a representative of what the bank requires. They think that you can make a difference, and you are the
Hmm.
one preventing them because they think that okay, this it solely depends on you. Unfortunately, sometimes people become targets,
Yes, yeah.
not even having anything to do with whether somebody succeed or no.
Certainly. The
All
bigger
right.
intrigue in banking to us, though, was in collections.
Yeah, that
Because,
yeah.
because unlike now, we were also the collectors.
Oh, you were so the collect.
We, we,
Wow.
we went to a man one day to collect over by Portmore, and the only collateral we were holding for the man was some personal furniture. And so my boss was just gas bag. If you don't give me the money, I am going to pick up this and I'm going to pick up this out your
Yeah,
house.
yeah, make noise, right?
The man opened the door and said, "Go on, sir, see, they go take it."
Oh wow. You wanna
And
go
then
in, you wanna go in and touch it, right?
my boss obviously became a bit concerned. This invitation is just a bit too open and too quick. And
Yeah.
so we just
Oh
stood there and
wow.
chatted a little, and we got to a place where thing became a bit more cordial. And the guy said at the end of the conversation, "So if you ever go in there, me leave me machine in your neck, you know."
Oh wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. I
When we were at 3 miles too, we were having difficulty collecting, and so head office sent this man who is supposed to be a crack collector, and he came to the branch and he took some accounts from us, and he's there showing off, and he drove into Olympic Gardens, and the
mm,
next thing we see is that little man turn around his mean and he's driving back to the branch. So
I know.
there was so much
Olympic
gunfire ahead of him
yeah,
that he couldn't
Olympic
go anywhere.
Gardens. Tell me about that. It is so unfortunate that sometimes because some people know of their community that you can't really come in there because there's so many reasons why you're in danger if you go in there. Sometimes they take advantage of that, and they that's their safe haven where where they know you can't come, and they do everything to hide themselves from you. So once they get, and that's where the gut feeling come from. You say this
Hmm.
person meet the requirement, but something tell me that this is gonna be his last point. He once he gets it,
Certainly.
it's gonna be done. All right. So something. So you move from that now, and life must get a little better for you now because now you're not in that kind of danger. You're moving on to something else that is not so life threatening. So
Yeah.
so tell me when you walk away from that, what happened? 1982. You ordained to Christian ministry. Tell me about that, the transition in your life from that, and how did that unfold?
Now remember, I did this right up until 1997. So I was bivocational for most
Oh,
of that
you
period.
were doing both.
I was bivocational.
Okay.
I was a
Okay.
banker, and I was a banker slash pastor, pastoring in Clarendon, working in Kingston, pastoring in Clarendon, going as far as St. Thomas and Moran Bay, um, pastoring in St. Elizabeth, working in Montego Bay, working in Lucy, working in Sablamar, working in Negril. So I was
Wow.
bivocational.
How did you manage that movement? Because those are long distances, and people never used to get to places easy
Hmm.
then as they do now because they have done some things now to give highways and stuff like that to get to some places. How challenging was that for you moving from one point to the other, church, work, all these distance?
Well, when I moved when I did 4 years, my first 4 years in pastoral was in Clarendon South. I started in the infamous Moco area and did 2 years there and then went across to Woodall in the same geographical, same political constituency. Clarendon South is it, so North Central, I think.
Mhm.
Um, and then I went to Black River. The bank transferred me from, at the time I was in Old Harbour, working at Scotia Old Harbour, I got transferred from Old Harbour to Black River. And so I went to Black River to work. I had an interesting scenario. During my last year in the Woodall Church, that's after 2 years, I said to the bishop, our father, that I really sense that my time here is done after 2 years, you know.
Mm.
He said it to me, man, you want to give me a heart attack. That's what the bishop said it to me. So we parted on that. Nothing was said as to what, if anything is going to happen. And so before we could get to convention, the bank called me and told me I was being transferred.
Wow.
So that was it. There was no need for a debate, no need for a discussion. We didn't have to fight. I was gone to Black
So
River.
you didn't give him a heart attack, and you
No,
just had to do what you had to do.
no, sir. I went to Black River in January. So I remained at the church up until convention, March, April. I continued to serve all my time there.
Because they used to, and again back then they used to move people from churches pretty
Every two, every
frequently.
two,
Every
every
two
two
years,
years. Yeah.
you're almost guaranteed to be gone.
Yes.
And it impacted families. You
Yeah.
gotta pull up roots and move your children, especially having children and all of that stuff. All right, so now you're moving up in the ladder in the church as well. So now you are parish overseer. You climb up the ladder to parish overseer for Saint Elizabeth, and then from Rocky Point, Longwood, and Clarendon. So that transition, climbing up higher, how did that impact your life secularly? Because that's in the middle of everything.
Well, for certain, one of the benefit for me, I really did not need to go to any gym. I maintain a healthy body weight, body mass index.
Right, right, buddy.
Yeah, but it was really hard work. But one of the things that the Lord always provided me with one or two persons who um, were serious enough about life and ministry that
Mhm.
you could lean on them to assist you in carrying on the work. When I was in Clarendon, my latter 2 years, I was actually pastoring two churches, Woodall and the Mount Providence churches, which were pretty close in proximity. But what one of the things the Lord helped me to do was to transfer one of my band leaders from the bigger church, Woodall, to Mount Providence. And over time, that man pretty much assumed running that church.
you,
My
you
brother,
you transfer your band leader.
yes, he was an exceptional young man. He was gifted, and loved God, loved people, and the church grew under him. I took no credit for it. As
Wow,
pastor, I did my rounds. I went there and I preached when I was supposed to preach, helped them plan so and so. But the rest of the thing, it was all on that man. He just discussed the things with me. He was free to go implement them, and the church grew. We
that's
went to
good.
Saint Elizabeth. We found a nice core of people, and oh gosh, oh Lord, I would not like to tell you that one of the guy who was there went there and saw him playing the guitar. That man, he rose after I left there to assume the pastoral function, not right after I left, but years after three or so persons passed through, he became pastor of the church. Bishop Beckford, I went back to that community and saw that church. What was the, I had expanded the church when I was there. He turned what was my length to be the width of the church.
Wow,
Turned that building around, and what he left there is simply amazing.
that's incredible. That is incredible. God bless him. Again, some of us are called for some things,
Hmm.
and we are really good at some things, but nobody really has everything,
Hmm.
and that's why we need each other to complement each other, and can appreciate each other, because you are good at this and I am good at this, and we can use that to be supportive to each other, and then make us all balance out at a good level. But sometimes that doesn't work, because some people are jealous of, of the other man's ability, and some people
Hmm.
don't want to make it look like he needs help, and all of that little selfish uh, boxing mentality prevents some of us from expanding, to our best, to a greater potential. Because if you were to say, okay, come over here, I help you do this, you help me do that, and boy, we all come out looking good because we support each other.
But if we understand the nature of God's church,
Hmm.
there should be no such jealousy among us.
Right,
The church is God's body, the body of Christ. He put every member in place. He has gifted every member, and every gift is given for that everybody should profit from it.
right,
So there is no room for us to become selfish in the way we administer the gifts of God in the church of the living God.
right, right. I agree. All right, so I'm scanning through this now, and I see in 1997, 95 to 97. So I'm trying to recall. At what point you were teaching BTI?
I would have taught BTI in the 80s.
That's when I was in BTI. So
Yes,
I don't see that here. How did Wentworth come in to become? Because I remember when they said, "Oh, we're gonna have a teacher named Wentworth Heron," and I know, and we hear this story about where he pastored and where he come from, and this guy
mhm.
came in. Tell me about how that came into Wentworth coming to teach BTI. Give me a little bit of the background on that, because I remember being in your class. Maybe my wife can't you teach. I remember being in your class, and I didn't even know that I got a couple on you. Because I thought, at least you give the guy respect when he comes in to teach. So I know you were pretty good at that. So how did that BTI thing come in?
I am not too sure as to you'll have to pick the brain of Bishop Les as to how come I was tapped to do that. But I got called into teaching. I think I taught auxiliaries, if I remember well. And then I went down to Montego Bay to work, and we got drafted into the Montego Bay school as well. So
Yeah, I
yeah,
remember.
that's
I
just
remember. I remember when. I
yeah.
remember when we were teaching. I think it was auxiliaries. I don't remember, but the boy
I
that
think it was auxiliaries I taught.
That's a long time ago, but I
Yeah,
just remember that it was in your class. I don't know
yeah.
if you remember how that I was in your class one
Oh, I
time.
was so nervous I wouldn't even remember if a fly was there.
Okay, I'm gonna leave that. I'm gonna leave that. How many years did you do BTI in Kingston? Teach in Kingston?
I don't think it was more than 1 or 2 years,
One,
because
two,
yeah,
maybe.
because
I think it may be 2 seasons.
yes, I think so, because I'd by then I'd moved on to the West End,
Okay.
and at the time the bishop explored, and was successful in establishing a Western school, and so I taught at the Western school for about 3 years too.
My friends, I'm talking to Bishop Dr. Wentworth Heron, my friend, live on Let's Talk with the Doc. And if you didn't share yet, it's still good time to share. This man, as I describe it, my question is, what hasn't he done? And if you missed the early part of the conversation, you would know that his experience in the secular, in the Ministry of Agriculture, from school days, coming up into the banking system, and into the church, and all of that is just like really a really rounded package. And he's still in pastoral work. All right, so tell me about the Center for Biblical Leadership founding. How did that come about, that you process that and come up with this? Okay, where did that stem?
Well, the thing was not oh, conceptualized by myself. The church had moved on from BTI, Bible Training Institute, and had
Right.
established the Center for Biblical
The
Leadership.
CBL, they went into
Yes.
CBL, right?
So when that was conceptualized in Cleveland, a group of us were chosen and sent for special training in Cleveland. I was a part of the group, and so we on return we were challenged to establish a school, and the Bishop Moss at the time, Arthur Moss, tapped me to be the person in charge. And so we rolled out a school. Our attempt at the time was not to duplicate the BTI methodology. We thought we needed to make the thing a bit closer related to what goes on in a typical Bible school. And so we took the material of the foundations course, and we expanded them to a full curriculum for for at least the genesis of a Bible school. So we would assign hours to each course, typical to a typical college level course. So we made the Bible thing a 30-hour class, that kind of a thing, 3 hour credit, and we did that for foundation and all of the things. We also recognize the need on the island, and so we also introduced things like English as a subject, some business as a subject matter, and that was the vision that guided the process at the time. So we took the foundations, it was the core, but we expanded it to look more like a Bible school. So when people were through, they could get like a transcript if they wanted to go on and so forth. And we saw some of that happening. And I want to pay, in my mind, a tribute to Brother Valentine Rodney, because he himself was at Jamaica Theological Seminary. I
Mhm.
got involved with JTS, and out of that, others who came to our Center for Biblical Leadership got enthused. Dr. Angela Works was one such person, and she came to us and said, "I think I need to do this." She was already accepted at the University of the West Indies, and she chose to go to JTS instead. And the rest is history. She now has her doctorate from Columbia as a result of that, because she went from JTS to UTC right through to her doctorate. And it's just an amazing thing what God is doing. What they're now doing is nothing to be compared, or what I did then was nothing to be compared to what is now happening in the school. For those who are on or watching us, I am begging you to support what Dr. Hassan Campbell and the group are doing down there in New Covenant Bible Institute of the Caribbean. Please lend your support. They are working towards full accreditation by the United, or that the University Council of Jamaica. University Council of Jamaica. Please, if you
I
can
think I
help
think
them,
I,
go ahead and
I
do that.
I think I saw something somewhere. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I think I saw, and I don't want to. I think I saw somebody was sent out some
Uh,
memo that they were, something maybe to that effect, if I can
Yes.
recall.
Yeah, there was a
But
GoFundMe on that.
maybe that's what it was. Maybe that's what it was. So that's interesting, because by the time I already left Jamaica, and so I was not part of the on the island CBL. But that's interesting that you guys were kind of making it more rounded and expanded it to cover more grounds, because adding English to that was really necessary, right?
Hmm.
Because it helps the individual who just didn't want to learn Bible, but want to understand English writing,
Hmm.
grammar, all those kind of things. So that was a good vision of broadening the what you offer to make the person a little bit more rounded. And
Certainly.
that's pretty cool. That was pretty cool. And so that now, as you said, that's broadened and gone beyond where you left it. Now it's covering bigger grounds.
They are working towards full accreditation by the University Council of Jamaica. And they have the personnel, the staff. You know, the Jamaican church has gone through a tremendous growth as it relates to theological education. There are a number of persons there who have obtained accredited degree from Gordon Conwell Seminary, both at
Hmm.
the master's level and the doctoral level. So they do have the personnel on the ground to do that, and there are some parts they need to add, like a library and so forth. So they need all the support they can to bring the school up to the level where they can be fully recognized and be given due accreditation.
How about the enthusiasm level among the prospective students and past students? How about the enthusiasm? Are people gravitating in large numbers to education? Because there was a time
Hmm.
back then, maybe in your days, my days, where education was like a maranatha. They don't want they don't we were more spiritual oriented kind of thing. They just like you're depending on the
Yeah.
Holy Spirit to you open your mouth and they fill it with words. I remember when BTI when they did the advanced course in BTI. That was maybe 88, 89, I think, when they did
Hmm.
the advanced course.
Yes.
And I remember one pastor from I think it was Old Harbor Bay, and he one I think Asa Powell was there, and I asked him, "Where's your pastor?" Because they were encouraging pastors to come, and I think he said that my pastor said, "Whatever I go teach them, I don't know." So whatever I go teach them, I don't know, because some people thought that they knew so much, and what they
Mhm.
didn't know, the Holy Spirit would teach them. How do you see the enthusiasm, the zeal, desire for knowledge now? How do you
Right.
see that?
All right. There is always this perception that There's no scholarship among Pentecostals, not unique to Church of God of Prophecy.
Hmm.
Pentecostals across the board, there is a general view that we are anti-intellectualism. That myth, I think, is being broken
Mm.
in many parts of the world, and I think in the Caribbean to a great extent. The Church of God, they have a fledgling theological program for their ministers. What we are finding, or what I believe is happening on the island as it relates to us, there's a greater level of interest among the young and upcoming ministers, those who are already entrenched in ministry, like that brother. They are not always inclined to go back to school. Um, One other thing, which I don't know if we will ever get there, if we'll ever get to a point where it becomes a requirement to
Mm.
enter ministry. Because I think for most churches, you've got to be trained before you're considered. For us, we act on the call, trusting that we would go out and prepare ourselves.
It's gonna be a hard hill to climb,
Hmm.
but I personally I would hope that we would gradually transition into making at least some fundamental steps a requirement, even
Yeah.
some basic premise that you must come through this process even to be considered.
Well,
um
they do, there is the foundations course. But if administered probably differently, more could be had from it,
right,
because what they did back when I was there in CBL was the same foundation course. They just opted to build it out.
right,
There is
right.
a no new program coming on stream. For those who are not on the Church of God, from the Church of God of Prophecy, please forgive us. It's a little bit of our polity right now.
Yeah.
But come convention or assembly, they're going to roll out a new ministerial program training, which is going to be more akin to practical theology. But certainly, Dr. Beckford, I'm sure you are now aware that outside of the nuts and bolts of ministry, if we are going to be relevant in the marketplace,
That's a
sometimes we
good. That's
do
a good. That's a
need
good word. Relevance
a
is a good
bit,
word.
yeah, we do need a bit more than just the nuts and bolts, because you're interacting with people at different levels of society. And
Certainly.
so your perspective, your worldview needs to be shaped in such a way that you can interact with them. I always like to look at at Paul's interaction at Mars Hill.
Mm-hmm.
It was not a Jesus' sermon. It was more
Right.
philosophical in
Mm-hmm.
approach,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
And that is not to negate or to suggest that one is afraid to use the name of Jesus. But if it is not going to be understood in the context from which you are trying to get them into a relationship with Christ, certainly.
I am with you 100%. I am with you on the ability to communicate and to relate at every level. And the Bible talks about being ready to give an answer to every man that asks the reason of the hope that is
Yes,
in you.
yes.
That does not necessarily mean what it means to be filled with the Holy Spirit.
Hmm, hmm.
It's much broader than that.
Yes,
So
certainly.
I just say the generation that we're dealing with now, compared to when you and I were growing up, whatever you tell people back then, they almost receive it.
Hmm,
But now people are asking questions, and they are, as you say, highly educated people. Young people are highly educated, and they sit down in your congregation and they assess, analyze, scrutinize, and decide, if you really know what you're talking about. And some of them are as brave as it can be, would even ask you to explain things even after your sermon.
Dr. Beckford. No, no, no. You tell me this is systematic theology at its highest,
Right.
but it is coming from a child of about 4 or 5 years old, speaking to the grandmother, and this is something that's happened recently,
Uh-huh.
and the child is saying to the grandmother, if Jesus is Mary's child,
Mm-hmm.
then God is Mary's husband.
Husband, right? Mm-hmm.
No, my brother, that is theology.
That, that, that is
And it's
theology.
not coming from a child, a young adult in university.
The processing of the mind of the child, analyzing, so based on what I know as my father and my mother. My father is my mother's husband. So okay,
Hmm.
give me some theological understanding of that.
No, no, no. All of that now entails the virgin birth.
Mm-hmm.
All of that now entails the Trinity. You
Mm-hmm.
can think of so much theological things you've got to layers you've got to go through in trying to educate that child in a manner that the child can
Can
understand.
understand.
No,
Yes.
you see, my just doing the foundations course with all the anointing of God, with all the insights,
Mm-hmm.
is not in and of itself adequate to
Not if
deal
not.
with this generation.
Because the foundation course is fundamentally historic and doctrinal kind of thing. It's a
Foundation at best.
foundation. Yeah, exactly. Basic,
Foundational.
basic, basic, and that kind of theological depth need more than the foundations course.
But 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 I
Go
tell you
ahead.
more. I tell you more. What is really more important, though, outside of the book and what is in there,
Mm-hmm.
is the attitude,
Mm-hmm.
our attitude towards it.
Mm-hmm.
Because although I am sitting here and you and I are saying it is foundational, I have exposed in the church I'm coming from other ministers to those foundational materials. We ran the courses in the church, and I invited two ministers from one from a Moravian church, one from a Christian Brethren background to teach from you. The brother from the Brethren taught Bible,
Mm-hmm.
and the Moravian minister who is a bona fide PhD
Mm-hmm.
holder. He taught history of Christianity. He was the what do you call him? Not the dean, but I can't remember the word. But he was in charge of the Moravian program at the UTC in
Mm-hmm.
Kingston,
Mm-hmm.
and he's from Antigua. He said to me, both of them said to me, Heron, I commend your church. This is good material, and
Mm-hmm.
more of us need to be teaching this to our people. So we need first and foremost an attitudinal change, because if the attitudes are changed, having received the foundation, come on,
It
Bishop
it
Beckford.
it it it,
I
it
just got a message just now. You don't tell me that you're going to start a house and have the foundation with the steel sticking up out of it, and it is there for 10 years and you don't want to put blocks on it.
I agree with you. I agree with you. I agree with you because uh learning creates a hunger for learning,
Mm-hmm.
right? Once you break open
Mm-hmm.
the door into knowledge,
That is correct.
then you begin to crave more, because when you begin to realize what you didn't know and how nice it is to know, it will trigger you wanting to know more. So I agree with you. If your attitude, and I agree with you, because I think what some of us did is to do the foundation course, out of necessity, by constraint. So I barely see if I can pass it, but I'm not digging into it to digest what's in it. So I can feed myself from it and say, "Oh my God, where did this material come from? Where can I find added material to expand on what this gives me?"
If you were a carpenter, I would have employed you to put on my roof, because you hit the nail right on the head.
Listen, my man.
I remember, when I was in Kingston, when we were Old Harbour Road at the school, there was a time when those were coming into the bishopric. You have your license already, but you didn't complete the foundation. But it became a requirement.
Right.
If you're going to be moving up the ranks, you had to now go and do the foundations course.
Mm-hmm.
And there were two brothers who were being prepared for the bishopric. And so the national bishop told them that they had to come to school, but they didn't want to come. One of the men, when he came to be registered that first evening of school, the man said, the bishop sent me. So that was one who was here by constraint.
By constraint, man.
Yeah.
By constraint, I'm just doing this so I can check and move on. You know,
Which
because
which which
if I don't do it, I'm not moving on.
which is sad too, because that's how some people deal with the foundations course.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. And so you find that they're barely. It's like some kids going to school. They don't really want to learn it. They say, you know, Mister, I try pass. Mister, try
Hmm.
pass me exam. So I'm gonna do it. I see if we can pass the exam.
Yes,
You
yes.
know, other than say, you know what, I'm going into this all in because beyond this, I'm looking far beyond this, and that's the approach that we need. Yes, the foundations course is what it is, a foundations course. But where do you want to go after you get this foundation? Now you talk about the building aspect of it.
Hmm.
You can't. You need to be able to lay down in the place and sleep and set it up as a nice home. And if you only have a foundation, then you're gonna leave it to goats running and just grow into grass or something. And but yeah. Put up the windows and the lintels and the beams and all of that stuff. Get the roof on, get it finished, and get into it. You can sleep and relax. And
Hmm.
I think that kind of approach to it make learning a lifetime experience.
Yes, it has to be. It has to be.
And having said that, I can see that. I can see that with you. I can see that with you, the man who never stopped going after something. And not to tap myself on the back, but I believe that knowledge is power, and
Hmm.
you can always learn. And as long as there is something to learn, hey, go on and learn, go on and
Hmm.
learn, go
Hmm.
after it, pursue it, make yourself better.
Yes, yes.
And especially if you want to be in ministry now, and you used the word earlier, relevant. If you want to be relevant, if you want to be relevant and not just uh this one dimensional approach that you're just like routinely going through this thing. You can't go to the right, you can't go to the left, you can only stay down the straight path. That's not good enough for ministry if you
Hmm.
want to minister to a broad range of people at an intelligent level.
Well, it goes without saying, really. You really can't give what you don't have.
That is true.
So it is important to me that you get more, that you can give more. And as you rightly say, the cross section of people that we are now finding among us are matriculated at a very high level.
Hmm.
And indeed, if they're not finding what they're looking for around us, they are going to go somewhere else to get it. And Bishop, and I may say something here, and I'm hoping I'm not sounding a bit in any way too arrogant. In, Sometimes people will hear us talk. Let me say me. Let me be selfish,
Hmm.
and would want it to ascribe to me brightness, and I know I am barely surviving. But I sat through a class, a set of class with a young man. The job he was doing was no great job. I don't want to say it here. But when I hear that boy talk, people say you lap your tail behind you. I
Hmm.
just
Hmm.
lap my tail. That young boy was so sharp when it comes to theology and theologians and what they teach and what they argue. And he's actually raising arguments, contesting some of what they say. I am
Hmm.
nowhere there. And part of the reason for that is that I was off to a very late start. This young man has been at it from he is young.
And at a late start, you can try catch up, but you can never fully grasp the gap that you lost early.
Hmm.
The gap you lost early. You can do well to make yourself relevant. I'll come back to the same word,
Hmm.
but to grasp everything along the way, and the greatest learning is the continuous learning. When you come through all the processes, you step by step, and you digest it one after the other, you become better. And that's where that young man is, and that's where you and people like you and me miss out that gap, and we're trying to play catch up now. So
Hmm.
at the back end, to be of some relevance. And I thought, if I had the opportunity
Mm-hmm.
when I was a young man, a young Christian man, young Christian boy, if I had the opportunity and the open doors, only God knows what I would have become with my theological depth.
Mm-hmm.
Because I love knowledge. I love knowledge. And
But
again, it comes back to why some of us cannot relate to some of the people in our congregation, and some people will not come in our congregation because we can't feed them. Their level of knowledge and understanding is beyond what we're able to offer. We can't intrigue their minds,
so true. So
so
true.
yeah.
And not only that too, some of us, we unlearning some things is not an easy thing either.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Unlearning.
Unlearning some things is not easy sometimes.
There's a line there's a line that I have that I use regularly, and I learned it when I went to do my chaplaincy residency,
Mm-hmm.
and it talks about my exposed theology
Mm-hmm.
versus my operational theology, and
Yes.
the unlearning of some things is the ability to walk away from, if necessary, my exposed theology,
Mm-hmm.
and to adopt an operational theology that takes me into another place where I've never been,
Yes.
but it helps me to be able to minister in the way that I have never been able to.
You too. Dynamic.
Wow. Bishop Dr. Wentworth Heron, my friend, I'm talking to. I'm glad to. Yeah, the man has been through so many things. He has accomplished so much, and now he has left Jamaica, and he's in United States, and he's pastoring and all of that. When I come back, I'm gonna just take a little bit of break, Hadi, and I'm gonna put two little commercial in here. And when I come back, my friend, I'm gonna take upon you, and we wrap it up on the experience in America. The
Okay,
experience in
sir.
America in ministry. When I come right back, my friends, I will talk to my brother on that. First of all, I will introduce my book, The Seven Churches of Asia Minor, the churches in Revelation. Have you ever wondered how relative they are to the churches today? Get a copy of this book, The Seven Churches of Asia Minor, and it will unveil truth to you. Chances are you'll find your own church related to one of these churches, and you might not like what you see, or maybe you love what you see. But get a copy of this book and begin to discover why Christ sent those seven letters to seven churches and addressed them separately based on their character.
Every Wednesday, 8 p.m., join ORV Ministries on Let's Talk with the Doc, live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. There is a story, something to encourage and inspire you. You may even have a life-changing experience. You never know what's next or who will join the conversation. Stay connected. Subscribe to ORV Ministries YouTube channel. Follow on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
All right, Bishop, here we are again. All right. So, my friend that I'm talking to, when he talks about education, he's not playing gimmick. He's a learned man. He's a well learned man. He has. I'm just going to say this. He has uh, Jamaica Theological Seminary. He has a Bachelor of Arts in 1997. In 2006, he has a Master of Arts in the Trinity International University, and in 2018, he's still learning. He has a Doctor of Ministry from the Gordon Conwell Theological Seminary. The man is still in pursuit of knowledge. And I wonder, in your pursuit, you better make sure that you keep on living long, so because whatever you learn now and keep on learning, that you can be able to impart it to others, right? So you're not just playing gimmick of talking about the importance of education. You have been there, done that, and still in pursuit. What's next for Wantworth? What's next in terms of development before we get into what is what just Wantworth say, you know what, yeah, I come this far, I'm done.
I am done in terms of formal study. I did flirt with the idea of a PhD, um, but there are other things in life which I think which I could do. I need to allow others to do. I want to be in a position right now to help somebody else or other people to achieve a level of education I have not achieved. So I'd want to
Mhm.
put myself in a position to help those individuals. But two, I would want to round off my pastoral ministry, and that is requiring time. I would not want to taking a break from the next 5 or so years of my pastoral ministry to go back to school. The way a PhD is a teaching degree,
Mhm.
the way seminars are now going, everything is tending towards more online and so forth. So I would want to look in any teaching or impartation is going to be probably more on a of an informal basis, where I get in the field, in the trenches, when I am done with pastoral work, and
Mhm.
can help other persons along the line. If there's any opportunity that comes up for adjunct work somewhere, then I will take that on. For the next couple of years, certainly I want to do a little bit of writing. I'm working on one or two small projects. I would want to do that, and some other things are kind of brewing in my spirit. My research had to do with the growth of the church, Church of God of Prophecy in my geographical area. In my research, some things really came out of that, which I would want to investigate more, and that has to do with racism, that impacts the church, because I'm in an area in which we are pretty much all black churches, but
Mhm.
more so black Caribbean churches. So
Mhm.
even from a study um, of human relations, I'd want to look at that some more, what contributes to that. And from a missiological standpoint, is a church, an entire church, missing out on a major component of the harvest? Because there are still people of other coloration living in the area. But we have no meaningful um, means of evangelizing among them.
Time would fail me for us to open that door, you
Yeah.
know, but hopefully when you conclude your research, maybe you can help us to see what are some of the things that we need to do that we haven't been doing. What do we need to change to become attractive? The conversation I had with the panel a couple of weeks ago was the changing of the mindset. How do we change our mindset, change our mentality, and that comes from various perspectives. Because how do we not so make ourselves so boxed in? How do we make our environment not so black, so white? What do we need to do from a relational standpoint in order to welcome both sides into one gathering? I'm sure, you know, hopefully that you can find that, and in your latter days, by the time
Mhm.
you finish, that you can bring the younger people together and say, here's what I found, and here is what can work. But I'm hoping that that will become reality at some point. All right. So tell me, you came into America. You're doing pastoral work since you came. How long since you've been pastoring? Since you've been pastoring ever since you came here.
No, I got here in 98, January 3rd, 1998. And I assumed pastoral responsibility in September of 2003.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you still this is what this is still almost 20 years.
18 years. I'm now in
Yeah.
my 19th year.
Yeah. So what's the experience like? And we're kind of wrapping it up now. What's the experience like here comparatively, pastoring here and there? What would you say? The highs and the lows, the variance. How do you define that or describe that in two different perspectives?
The matter of context has become important in my mind as we look at trying to compare both. If United States is a first world country, there are certain realities that are on the ground here as against back where I'm from. So I've got to, one, understand those realities and try to operate within those realities. Of course, because you are accustomed to things being done a certain way, you are sometimes struggling in terms of how you carry out your function in the new reality. Because you're still, all you knew, all you know is what you knew.
All you know is what you
And
knew, right?
and so you're sometimes caught up in that. So but the quicker you can make the pivot, the better it is. Where I passed it for 18 years, the benefit I had from that, it was not pure Jamaicans, we're all black, but it's a mixture of African Americans, Jamaicans, and from the other Caribbean islands, the Bahamas predominantly. In fact, our area was predominantly evangelized by Bahamians. Jamaicans came afterwards. So I had to also learn the difference in those cultural realities. So even as I invite people in to speak, those are some things I had to bear in mind.
Right.
I do remember or recall on one occasion where we had someone speaking, and they were using much of their vernacular. And there were two brothers sitting on the front row. I was sitting close to them. And one was asking the other, what did he say? But the one he was asking was from another culture. So neither of them understood
Oh
what the
wow.
person was saying. So
Wow.
those are realities of life. And so we had to navigate that. Um, I, 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 I knew I couldn't fight to build a Jamaican church. And I was not about to do that, because if I did that, then I would become more and more irrelevant.
Yeah.
The other thing I also had to recognize that the area was predominantly or was dominated by the Baptist churches. In fact, we were right next to a National Baptist congregation,
Wow.
bigger facility, long established. Well, they got started about the same time our church got started in the area. So you had to adapt to those realities. I can't whoop and holler like them and all of that stuff and so forth. Plus, they also are aware of our leadership being white, and they have a perception of so forth. They have a perception of island people. All of that stuff we had to navigate. For us, we had our ups, we had our high points, our low points. But all in all, I think the Lord helped me for the 18 years. Last October was my last, left on the 31st of October.
So where you yeah, as I was saying that I noticed that when I posted on the Facebook, somebody said, "Oh, the new pastor for," I forgot the place where the person made mention, say, I just met him recently.
LA.
L
LA.
L L A.
Yeah, not Los Angeles, Lehigh Acres.
Lehigh. Right. I saw that Lehigh. Right. So um what brought you to that? Is that a decision you made, or it was an opportunity come, or somebody say, "Hey, we want you here"?
And I hope you don't categorize me in any way derogatory.
No, no, I never do that. I never do that online or offline.
No, I'm just pulling it up. About 2.5 years ago, I really sensed that my time at my previous church was coming to an end, or had come to an end. I think I bargained with God to spend another 2 years to try and do some things, especially with our discipleship model, to put some things in place. Now I'm looking back, because COVID used up all of that time. So I'm saying probably God moved me from then. Huh? Anyway, so I indicated to the bishop 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, that I thought my time there was done. Um, I wasn't, we didn't have much of a discussion after that. So um, last year would have been convention year. So January of last year, I indicated to the bishop that, yes, I'm serious. My time here is done. And he asked me if I sensed where the Lord was leading me. I said, Bishop, no. I really know my time is done here, but I don't know what the Lord is doing with me. And so in the process of other churches making their transition, the pastor at the church I'm now located, she indicated that she thinks her time was up as well. and so she was walking away from pastoral work, was retiring, and so the bishop asked me if that's something I would consider. And so, of course, I told him yes, because I have never, if the Lord has begun to work in my heart, I never ever question anything that comes afterwards. Before the church before now, I got a letter of appointment to another church before, and it was not to no big church. It was about, I don't know if there were 10 people in that church, but I said yes because I knew God had called me back to pastoral ministry. Unfortunately, the brother at that church did not want to leave, so they couldn't execute the letter of appointment until the person at that church I just left who also indicated that he was retiring. And that's when the bishop now redirected me to that church. I spent
Okay.
spent 18 years there, and I thank God. As I said, there are some high points, some low points. As you know, that's ministry.
That's
But,
ministry. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
We all have, I was going to ask you in a summary. So what, and I don't want to maybe ask this out on online here, but listen, it's a good thing. It's a good thing when a minister, a leader can sense that, you know what, it's not because I don't have anything to offer. It's not because the church is not exciting. It's not because the church is not productive and progressive, but deep down in my spirit, I'm sensing that I have come to the end of my time here. That's okay. That's okay. Everybody need a little bit of fresh moment, a new challenge, new insight, something that's going to challenge your vision, and somebody would come behind you from where you were, and come with the excitement there and create new energy, and you go somewhere else and take new energy there, and there's a continuation. um that's okay, it's good when you can sense that. I had the same experience in previous ministry. I say, you know what, I think my time has come for me to move to someplace else.
I really
um
believe, Bishop, you're trying to live in a fool's paradise. If you believe, or you're telling yourself that God can call you but cannot recall you.
all right. As you said that, I remember I heard just a sentence, a bit of humor. I heard one bishop said back in I don't know if it's Bishop Cook. Bishop Cook from where was it? Bull
7 Mile
Bay,
Bull Bay, Seven
Bull
Mile.
Bay. Yeah, yeah. I heard. I think Sister, what's her name? I forget her name. She used to cook at the convention, and
Mm.
the bishop didn't
Sister
like
Lloyd, is it
challenge.
Lloyd? Sister
Lloyd,
Lloyd?
her mother.
Mm.
They didn't like. She told us that he didn't like challenges, and he had ministers in his church, and one at a time he said to somebody, "Well, listen, I appoint you, and I can disappoint you." Yeah.
No, what he don't know that the brother could also disappoint him by just
disappoint,
walking away.
disappoint, disappoint him.
Don't give him the opportunity to fire him. Just say, I am gone.
I am gone, right? I am gone.
Yeah.
I am gone. So yeah, God appoints you, calls you, reappoints you, and resend you, redirect you. It's in His prerogative to do that. And we say, yes, Lord, whatever Your will is, help me to understand and to follow in humility, and that You can work Your purpose out in my life. So,
God,
um,
God, God, God sets up one, God takes on one.
mhm.
It is God who makes appointments. It is God. And we've
Yep.
got to bear that in mind. I think
I
we need
am
to bear that in mind.
I am absolutely in agreement with you, my friend. I am absolutely in agreement with you. If we can sense when our time comes and we move on, we can keep things going. Yeah, somebody respond and tell me, Sister Bloomfield. Thanks the friend who is watching there. Who is that? Lena Davis. Thank you
Yeah.
for listening and chiming in. All right, Bishop. So what's in the future other than I know you tell me that you were thinking of doing some writing later on, etc., etc. I am doing a little bit of that to myself. I don't know where the Lord is taking me in terms of ministry, but I think He's setting me up for something, that I can do in my latter years if my life spared. So I'm seeing where He's leading me on that too. All right. So what's in the making? By the way, I never talked to you about sister Vinette. She only candidate. We never even talk about Well, you tell me you're married in '82 or something like that.
81.
81. What's your family like? You have I ever met children?
I have two daughters.
Two daughters.
Yeah.
I never remember
One,
met your daughters. I don't remember if I
and
met them.
coincidentally or incidentally, or I don't know basically you want to describe it, but the person who took over from me at the church I just left is my elder, Camille. She took over from me at
Oh,
that church, so she's preaching. The yes,
oh, she's pastoring now.
she's pastoring the church I just left,
Oh,
and
really?
I did not assign her. Just wanted your audience to know that
Oh, kudos
the
to
church
her. That's
church
cool.
saw her as a possible replacement, and the bishop
Oh,
agreed.
well,
So
it's a
she's
lucky thing I
going.
asked her because I would not have known that. That's pretty good. That's
Yeah,
pretty good. Very nice. Very nice.
yeah. The
Give
other
her
one,
give give her a shout out for me.
I cer-
Congratulations to her.
I certainly will, sir. Certainly will.
I'm proud of her. Proud of you, man.
Yeah,
Proud of
yeah,
you and Sister Vinette. For bringing up your daughter so involved. That
yeah.
is wonderful. And see my wife giving a shout out too. That is really wonderful. Kudos
Yes.
to you and
It's
her.
a blessing. It's a blessing.
Yeah.
The
Wow.
younger of the two, she's not involved in ministry, and she needs a little more prayer right now.
They
Yes.
they often do need a little
Yeah.
bit of prayer.
Yes.
Trust me
Yes.
on that.
Yes.
We
Yes.
we know we know exactly what that is, right?
Yeah.
So
Good.
blessings
Good.
to you,
Good.
man.
Good. Good girl, but she needs a little prayer.
Yeah, we understand. And again, not everybody's aspired to,
Yes.
and,
Yes.
and we don't want to break people into what their aspirations are not, and where they don't feel
Mhm.
adequate and able to to
Right.
to be to do their best. So we pray for
Yeah.
them and encourage them in whatever their part in life that they choose.
She would
Congratulations to you.
she is a tremendous sound engineer. She gave me some good sounds in my earlier in my ministry, and
Wow.
we just need to pray that she finds her place back around the soundboard, and because I believe that she's really gifted to do that, really do that, really
Bless
gifted.
the Lord. Bless the Lord. Very nice. Very nice. Very nice. Very nice. Congratulations on you on that. And blessings to you on your anniversary just gone. Congratulations on you. What? 41 you said?
41, sir.
41. Keep on going, man. It's one at a time, right? It's one at a time.
Yeah.
We take it one at a time. And to get to
And
41 is a long time of counting.
long,
Blessings
long,
and
long time.
blessed wishes to you and your wife. One of these days, I hope that we run into each other. I know you're not going to run into me up here. Hopefully, I run into you in Florida,
But
somewhere down there.
what you need to do is to make sure you do winter in Florida.
Okay. Okay. All right.
At this stage of our life, we can do a little bit more warmth in our bodies.
Listen, man, I agree with you 100%, and my wife will tell you she agrees 150%. Right, so pray
Yes,
for
sir.
us, pray for
Yes,
us, and see what the Lord wants to do
yes,
with us in our latter years. In our
yes,
latter
yes, yes,
years,
yes, yes, yes.
man. It's so nice to have you, man. I hope that you stay blessed and stay encouraged and stay excited. It's good to have you, man. Anything you want to say to anybody before you say good night? What's your last word? What's your summary that you'd like to pass on to everybody who's listening? And
If I miss,
you can take it from any angle you want.
first and foremost, thank you very much for the invitation to share with you,
My
and with
pleasure.
your audience, on tonight. And then in closing, I would just like to encourage everyone who is watching that one, God has called you, but He has not just called you and left you without an assignment. You are not left without tools to work with. You are not left without assignment. God's when the Lord Jesus says when He called you that you should be productive, that you should bear fruit, and that your fruit should remain. But He has not left you without the proper tool and mechanism to be productive. He has given you the tool. To
Mhm.
every one of us, gifts has been given. And the gifts and the calling of God are without repentance. He has not changed His mind about the gift and the calling that He has given to you. I want to encourage every one of you, my brothers and sisters, to seek God. Paul says in Romans 12, I beseech you that you present your bodies as living sacrifice, wholly acceptable, blah, 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 that you may prove what is that good and acceptable and
Acceptable and
perfect will
perfect
of
will
God.
of God, right?
And by the time we get down to verse 8, thereabout, he's beginning to tell you about some of the gifts which are in the church. Some of these are replicated in First Corinthians chapter 12. And of course, Ephesians chapter 4 tells us about the ministry gift. I know a lot of people are striving for these fivefold gifts, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
telling you, if you could ever begin to do service in the house of God and you recognize how important this is. In fact, as late as 3 nights ago, I did my own spiritual gift inventory again. And like every time I do it, what is showing up is that service is one of the dominant gifts in my ministry.
Mm.
So I'm a pastor. I preach, I teach, I counsel, but an active part of my ministry has to do with service. So I would say to my deacons, anybody who is a deacon around me, don't stop me if you see me moving something. It's just a natural outflow of God's gifting within me. And all of us on this platform tonight, there is something in you that is required for the building up of the kingdom of God. You are in your local church, and God expects you, before your name get called by anybody, to be actively doing what God has called you to do. Once you begin to do what God has called you to do, the church will recognize and affirm you in that which God has called you to do. There's no room for you to be worried about other people. Be focused on the fact that God calls you. God has blessed you. God has empowered you. God has gifted you to bear fruit. God bless you.
Amen, my friend. Thank you so much. My wife is just responding to your suggestion that you're getting older. A little bit of warmth is better for you, and she responded. Let me. I don't know if you saw her message here. She said, and then she asked a question: Where in Florida are you? I am tired of the cold.
Well,
Um, and
can I
and 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 it has been cold. It has been cold and hot and warm, and it's kind of mix up all over here right now in New York. So
if I were a singer, I would just join Bob Marley and say, coming in, coming in, coming in,
coming
coming
in
in
from the
from the
cold.
cold.
All right, all right, all right, all right. We hear you, my friend. We hear you. We hear you, and we thank you for spending the time with me. I appreciate it, man. I hope this is not the end of it. I hope that we get another chance to chat more on issues, something that are
Yes,
issues. Because now we have heard your story. So the next time we talk, we can talk about what do we want to talk about as issue. Because there's so many things that we could talk about. As it pertains to uh vision, where the church goes, what the church looks like now, what it's going to be like. How do we become more relevant? We tip a little bit on that, but I'm sure we can discuss a little bit more on the relevance of the church and what is required to make a church pastor ministry more relevant in this time. I'm sure another time we can have another discussion on that. But thank you so much, my friend. We will keep in touch. We will keep in touch. And by the way, now I have your phone number. Don't ever forget to touch base with me, right? You can
God bless you, sir.
always come to chat with me and let's talk with the dog. All right.
God bless you, sir.
And I'm giving a shout out to anybody if you follow if you have a TikTok account, by the way. I am taking ministry to TikTok now too. I am really taking ministry to TikTok because some people can only take the tick on the talk. So I'm taking ministry to TikTok. Whatever means and method that God has blessed us with, I'm going to utilize it because we're going to find them wherever they are with something of inspiration, something of encouragement, something of a thought and a reminder that Jesus still loves you, and
Yes.
the things that you can't change is not your problem. It's really a fact, a reality of life. How do
Hmm.
you deal with the things you can't change so that it does not paralyze you and put your life on hold, but you can navigate through it or around it to keep on going. So follow me on TikTok, ORB Ministries, and let's keep it going. Bless you, my friend. Hang
Bless you,
in
sir.
there. Hang in there, and I'm gonna say goodbye to all of those on the line. Thank you for joining. You can still hit your share button. Follow me on Facebook. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. And let's do ministry together. Stay right there, Bishop. I'm going to go offline and say bye to my friends. And then when I come back, I'll just chat with you and make you go to your bed and have a good night.
God bless you all.
Peace until next week, my friends. I have a great lineup sister for next week who has been incarcerated and been out, and her life is a testimony. So check out next week because it's gonna be good. Until then, peace be unto you. Well, thank you for checking in on ORB Ministries. I trust that you will share with your friends, subscribe, hit the bell for notification, and stay tuned because you never know what's next or who will join the conversation.